Okay. Push-ups. Ready? Go. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. All right. What's it say, guys? Ready, set, go.
Remember, hands off your legs.
2, all the way down. 4,
Hands off your legs.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Okay, guys. What's it say? Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, what's it say, guys? Okay, ready? Set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What's it say, guys? Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was an easy one.
And they're going to be doing a reader's theater called Baba Black Sheep Sells for His Wool. This is Anders, and he's going to be the narrator. We have Austin, who's Baba, the black sheep. We have Annabelle, the shepherd. We have Brian, who's wool buyer number 1. Quinn, who is wool buyer number 2. And Finn is wool buyer number 3.
Hi, Austin.
The marketplace is busy with the people buying
done. Wool for sale for black wool.
Are you Baba Black Sheep?
I am Baba Black Sheep. Have you any wool? Yes, Baba has wool.
I have a lot of wool. I am so hot.
Baba has good black wool.
1 bag for me.
2 bags for me.
And the shepherd cut the wool.
Here you go, 1 bag of wool.
Thank you.
2 bags of wool for you. Thank you.
No, thank you. Now I am not so hot. Bye-bye, Baba.
Bye-bye, Baba.
And our customers, when it comes to see Baba and Bella.
I need wool. Lots of wool. How much wool? 3 bags.
3 bags?
Yes, sir. 3 bags. 3 full bags. Okay, here you go. 1, 2, 3 bags of wool. 3 full bags of wool.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Baba.
Bye-bye. Good work, Baba.
Now I do not have any wool, but now I am cold. Shoot!
Now we have a Sherwood group. Because we didn't get a chance to go out to Sherwood, it's a little tough to have a meeting like this out at the Sherwood School. And so we have some of our Sherwood folks here tonight who also represent our elementary. Julie and Lisa here.
So I think we'll go on this stage.
It's right up there. I think that one of the yellows is going to take over the show. Gets that from Dad.
Hi everybody, it's nice to be here, my old stomping grounds. I'm Julie, I teach the K-1-2 class, and we've been doing some poetry in our school, in the elementary school, K-5. So we've all come together to show you some of what we've done. We're going to demonstrate 2 kinds of poems today. The first is using personification, and we start with a painting. This is a painting done by one of our kindergartners, like one of my very favorites. And then we pretend that whatever the elements are in our painting is something that becomes alive. And so we write poems about that. You'll also see poems written in the pattern of the important book. This is where you try to distill what's the most essential about yourself in this case, and tell an audience about what's the most important thing about you. Okay? So I've got some readers for us. First, Joey is going to read a poem with personifications. Yeah.
Amphibian whale dives through the ocean, detecting food. Shallows go left and right, rising from the deep. Storm cloud mountains, thumping and bumping, up and down.
And please show your picture. And then because Joey is such a scholar, he also has an important poem that he's going to share with you.
The important thing about me is that I'm a good person to talk with about NASCAR. It's true that I like to play to be happy, and my best school thing is read. I love my family forever and for always, and I will grow up one day to a hopefully non-miserable life. But the important thing about me is that I'm a good person to talk with about NASCAR.
Next we have Arlo. Arlo, step up. This young man is one of the most natural poets I've ever met. He's got 2 poems that show his personification. And his first one is very quiet and peaceful. His second one is very loud. You want to show your picture first?
The sun came down as the moon came up. The mellow turquoise ocean waves became the smoothest place on earth.
Such a peaceful poem. And a very different poem. Show your page first.
The storm awoke as the lightning screamed. The thunder burst with tears.
Thank you, Arlo. Next, we have Trey. Trey has written an important poem.
The important thing about me is that I love baseball. It's true that I'm a good fault maker. I make them outside. My cat joins me. I really love my cat. She is really fluffy and she is old, but I love her. I love food. It is really good. I am a good artist. I write really good poetry. I really love my school. But the important thing about me is that I love baseball.
Beautiful, thank you. So next we've got Callie. Look at this powerful painting. You ready?
Sharp-fin waves push the sapphire sea. Bright colors float through the sky and dance behind the shimmering and shining silver moon.
And finally we have Sophie. Sophie, step on up. Sophie is actually a first grader, but she does almost all second grade work, and she wanted to share her poem with you today.
The important thing about me is I love animals. It is true that I'm a little sister. I love my dad, my mom, and I also love my dad. It's true I ride my bike on trails. I love math and school. It's true I love playing with my friends on the playground at school. It's true I love doing art, coloring, painting, and making things. But the important thing about me is I love animals.
And Sophie, how many animals do you have?
I'm not sure.
Maybe close to 50? A lot.
Can you hear me? Okay, come on. Okay, so you guys want to get in order? So we have Wyatt's going to go first, then Sophia with the F. You're right here next. And then we're going to have Stephen, followed by Soraya, followed by, there you go, Sophia with CH. And then we have Alex and Knox. And I'm the teacher up at Sherwood, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And I'm super honored to be here tonight and to be able to work with the amazing writers and artists that I have in my class this year. Deep breath, I get super nervous. This group has been really exciting to work with because they love to write. And so we did a huge poetry unit. We talked about figurative and descriptive language. We talked about idioms, similes, metaphor, adjectives, and did a really big unit. And then at the end of the unit, as a bridge to our narrative writing, we did a narrative poem. And it's based on a poet named George Ella Lyon. And I'm going to read you her original poem, and that's sort of the framework. And then all of these young writers wrote their own rendition, and I took them home literally the day that they wrote them, and I sat in my bed and read them, and I cried. They're just absolutely beautiful and very personally revealing, so I would love for you to really listen carefully to them. Okay, so here's the original. Where I'm from. I am from clothespins, from Clorox and carbon tetrachloride. I am from the dirt under the back porch, black, glistening. It tasted like beets. I am from the forsythia bush, the Dutch elm, whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I am from fudge and eyeglasses, from Imogene and Alifair. I am from the know-it-alls and the pass-it-ons, from the perk up and the pipe down. I'm from He restoreth my soul with the cotton ball lamb, and 10 verses I can say myself. I'm from Artemis and Billy's branch, fried corn and strong coffee, from the finger my grandfather lost to the auger, and the eye that my father shut to keep his sight. Under my bed there was a dress box, spilling old pictures, a sift of lost faces to drift beneath my dreams. I am from those moments, snapped before I budded, leaf fall from the family tree. Okay, and here's my brave soul, Wyatt. He's always my guinea pig. He's got no fear, so he's gonna read his first one.
I'm from TV, it sucks me in. From taxidermy deer and my phone. I am from sometimes my annoying family and the hard ground. I'm from the grassy hill and the redwood tree, whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I am from eating turkey and having brown hair. I am from my brother Michael and my sister Kathy. I am from mint chocolate chip ice cream and creatively drawing and saying bro a lot. I am from don't get married and stay single and hold your horses. I am from traveling to Idaho to visit my uncles and cousins. I am from Ukiah Hospital. From Chinese steak and salad. And the 231-pound bass my dad caught in Blue Lake. I am from when my big brother got his Harley in South Carolina. I am from my memories of my family tree.
And this is Sophia, another amazing writer, and one of my 4th graders. All right, ready? Hit it down.
I am from the ancient red couch, from the glistening black TV in the living room, and the smell of dog and cat. I am from the irises and the daffodils, the giant old pine trees behind my house whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I'm from movie night and dinner and family dinner, and from Nanny and Poppy. I'm from watching TV, feeding the pets, and from what we want to do over the summer postseason. I am from Feed Your Dog, and winners find ways and losers find excuses. And the three little birds by my doorstep singing sweet songs. I'm from Ukiah Hospital and Willits, from pizza and pasta and my old family trip to Vegas and all the fun games we played. I am from my mom's wedding dress in my closet. I am from my family tree.
And this is Stephen, another amazing writer, 4th grader also. All right, you ready, Stephen?
I am from my dirt bike. I am from the dog's LB&P. I am from the house, red outside and blue on the inside. It smells like bacon at camp. I am from the hawks on the post and the blackberries with long thorns are never as if they were my own. I'm from music. I'm from my dad and mom. I am from chores and camping and things. I am from follow your dreams, wakey, and baby, and Bohemian Rhapsody. I am from Mother's Day when she opens her presents. I am from Ukiah Hospital, Native American ancestors, and eggs and sausages. From the time I went down the water slide at Camp Honolulu to the necklace my dad gave me from the time he was in the Navy. I wear it around my neck and I'll never take it off.
And this is Soraya, and I want to really commend Soraya. She was a little bit nervous about coming, but she's here, and I really appreciate your bravery every day, gal. So.
I am from the picture of my mom and I, from the couch and the TV. I've always known from the bandages of my dad's injured hands. I am from the red and green plant in the small clear vase sitting on the windowsill, the almond tree in the grassy backyard whose long gone limbs I remember as my own. I am from Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving turkey. I am from close your window to close the front door and you don't always get what you want. I am from sitting on the sandy beach watching the colorful fireworks on the 4th of July. I am from Ukiah, California. I am from ham and stuffing and the white and black box with old pictures in it that's in my closet.
And this is Sophia Mia, and I always love to listen to her write. Or read her writing. She's really got a poet's heart.
I'm from my bed, which is silent when I sleep. From toys that make me happy and mac and cheese like yum. I'm from the crazy blue house from the middle of North Maine. I'm from my chicken square side band that licks sorrow. And the Christmas tree from long ago, who long gone limbs if I remember if they were my own. I'm from my dog and my brother, from bad spelling and going to church, and not wanting to clean. I'm from don't lie, and you have to clean a room, and you are my sunshine. I'm from family photos every 5 years, from Fremont and Willits, sweet potatoes with marshmallows and homemade cookies. A great grandpa who is raised as a guide, forgetting everything and dying. Treasure hang on my wall, on the board, like was for the past.
And this is the last two girls here are two of my fabulous 5th graders, and they are also awesome writers. And although they get a little, 5th grade. Okay, so Alex, you ready? Really beautiful poetry here.
Where I'm from. I am from my soft dog and cats, from poopy trees and rushing rivers. I am from the bright twinkling stars up in the sky. I am from the dark ponds and the manzanitas whose red limbs I remember as if they were my own. I am from camping and swimming, from my loving dad and my herbalist mom.
I'm from reading, writing, and drawing. I'm from scary stories of dragons and tales of fairies and the songs my mom sings me. I'm from telling spooky ghost stories around the campfire. I'm from Laytonville and the country, from steak and potatoes, and from my dad's bitten leg by the Black Widow. Beautiful photos of my family on my wall and in my mind.
And then last but not least, Knox. I told Knox her challenge for third trimester was to get her writing out there. She's absolutely phenomenal, and I told her that when she's a famous author and or / artist that she needs to come back and I'll buy a copy of her book and have her sign it because she's just amazing. So, okay, ready?
I'm from the bubbling tea kettle which calmly sits on my stove, from hair ties and rubber bands strewn across the counter. I'm from the carpet of muddy paw prints which only appears when it rains, the warm, clean smell of laundry. I'm from the sun-filled poppies which appear each spring, the moist, calm redwoods whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I'm from warm Thanksgivings and joyful birthdays. I'm from a calm, sweet mother and a loving father. I'm from a cozy fireplace and long walks and well-used books. I'm from Ask and Answered and Clean Your Room and music from the 1980s. I'm from California and the nostalgia of barefoot summers spent catching frogs in the dark with nothing but a flashlight to guide your beating. From a slideshow of memories which will have its place in my heart. I am climbing the roots of the world, slowly rising with each year.
Yay, Sherwood.
So this is a little off script, but he happens to be here, so I don't have to do it at the June meeting. I do want to recognize who I consider my volunteer of the year for Willits Unified. This guy, and I do mean guy, does so much stuff. He is a repairman for me out at Sherwood. He meets me up at the weekends. We fix things. He is the builder of the Gaga pits. He is also the guy who helps me when the district has to remove trees. He's a licensed arborist. Came in and did some arbor work for us so we know exactly what to do and not do. There's nothing he doesn't take part of. He coaches youth soccer. He does all kinds of stuff. He's kind of a dad's dad. And he's a great guy, and I just want him to come up. I want to shake his hand. I'm going to give him a certificate about being the volunteer of the year. I had no idea he was coming tonight, or I'd have had it prepared already. Guy, come up and get your dessert. He's a great person. If you ever need help with anything, he's the person to see. Doesn't matter the subject, he can help you with it, and he's just one of those people you can't do without. And he helps Sherwood, but he helps every school. And so I'm really proud to have had that relationship with him where I can call him on his cell phone, he'll call me back and say, hey, let's meet Saturday morning, we can go take care of that. So, thank you. Well, we passed this because Claire was busy with taking an AP. What AP test do we have today?
AP European History.
Oh, that sounds like a joyous opportunity. AP US History test, so Claire was a little late. But every year we recognize our student who comes up and does their board work and is one of our board members. So I would like to present Claire with her plaque representing the high school on our school board. Sure, you got a 5 on your AP history test, right? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. Kathleen, it's all yours. Yep. I didn't want people to leave before you started your presentation. So.
Well, it's not all mine. It's our whole MTSS committee. So come on up, everyone. Gang's all here tonight. So I'll be the slide.
So we are at last month's board meeting, I mentioned the work of the MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of support, and this is our team, and we are going to share with you, we're so excited to share this work with the board because we are taking a direction of being a K-5 part with this multi-tiered system of support. So I'm going to introduce myself, and the rest of the team will also, and then we have this nice presentation for you. So I am Nancy Renberg. I'm the principal of Gloucester Lane Elementary School.
And I'm Kathy Crossman, the principal at Brookside here.
Kelly Levis, I'm the special ed director.
Jeff Kramer, I'm the school-wide counselor and I also work with attendance.
I'm Laura Rowland, I'm a resource teacher here at Brookside School. Julie Cannell, ELL teacher and intervention teacher here at Brookside.
And it's coming again, but we do have a teacher on our team, Jennifer Valenzuela-Watkins, who is in here, and we have a paraprofessional, Karen Patero, and she's not present, part of our team.
Okay, so a little bit about the history of MTSS and how we got involved. A few years ago, when this first came out, it was called the SUMS grant, and we looked into it as a school site because we were really into helping our students achieve through intervention and also helping support their behavior as well as social emotional learning. And that's what this grant is all about, offered around the state of California, because that's what research is showing needs to happen. Those are the 3 tiers of really good instruction. And Gloucester at the same time was into it, and they were really focusing on positive discipline and PBIS, and we really took the lead on the intervention and getting our instruction aligned. But when we examined the grant, we found that it required so much travel that it would waste the whole $25,000 practically that was offered through the grant. And so we said, let's do it on our own. And so as schools, we got to work and tried to do the hard work on our own, which isn't as easy as having a support. And so we were told after a couple of years by the County Office of Ed that now they heard people, and they heard that there was too much travel and it's too expensive for rural districts like ours. And so they said they cut down the travel, they cut down the meetings, and MCOE said, how about if we partner with your district and then you can have the $50,000 and we'll be your partners in this endeavor. So that's how we ended up with a $50,000 grant for the MTSS multi-tiered system of support, and we're going to show a little video that will explain exactly what MTSS is.
Talk about something you are probably already hearing about. MTSS. What is it, you ask? Well, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support. I know, it's a mouthful. Let's break it down. California's Multi-Tiered System of Support is a framework designed to help districts and schools address each and every student's academic, behavioral, and social emotional needs. I know. You're thinking, sounds great. But what is this? How does any of this even work? Well, let me try to answer that. MTSS realigns numerous state, regional, county, district, school, community, and family resources to provide all students challenging and motivating coursework, along with the opportunity to learn in the most inclusive and equitable learning environments possible. As part of that, proven existing programs like positive behavioral intervention and supports restorative practices, and response to intervention have been integrated into MTSS. In short, it's about taking all the best practices and resources built up over the years and streamlining them so that every student can benefit from all the tools at educators' fingertips. Let's break this down a little bit more. At its core, MTSS uses proven, evidence-based priorities and practices to provide universal support to all students. But we know some students behave and learn differently and may require supplemental support in certain areas. Finally, a few students may need even more intensified support to meet their needs. Oh, come on. These levels of support are available to all students. For example, a student might be doing great academically, but need additional support in social-emotional development, or vice versa. Or maybe they only need additional support with learning in math. The system is flexible to what each student requires, and educators will be constantly assessing where their pupils are in each key area. So, what kind of impact can a multi-tiered system of support have? Well, schools can use the MTSS framework to increase attendance, lower dropout and disciplinary rates, improve school climates, and boost academic performance. Because MTSS builds on the strengths of each school's staff and signature programs, it won't necessarily look the same at each school. But common features include collaboration, the use of data, differentiated instruction, and targeted interventions that kick in before a school or student is failing. MTSS is now being scaled up statewide, marking an important step in California's drive for continuous improvement. We hope you'll be a part of this movement, ensuring the success of all students. For more information, visit the website. And thanks for watching.
So what that looks like for us in Willits, I'm just going to give you some examples of things that we already have in place. So we already have in place a whole lot of interventions at many, many levels, and so I'm going to take you through a couple of student examples. Let's just say we have 3 students. We have Delightful Debbie right here, and we have Smarty Sam right here, and we have Jolly Joe. So these guys are all in a regular class. Let's say that they go to Blosser. And they're all getting what all students get, our core supports. They're getting our core curriculum. The students are doing some circles every day to talk about getting along and understanding how to work together as a group. We have behavioral expectations. So in their class at Blosser, they learn about being safe, respectful, and responsible. And those are things that all of them are getting. But let's say that Smarty Sam here, he's starting to have some difficulty with reading. And so we have some programs in place already in our district, and we use, according to MTSS, we use data. So we use Dibbles as our way to assess how he's going to do in reading. And the teachers take a look at that, and we find, oh no, he needs some extra help. And so as a part of that overall system, the staff talks about that, and Ms. Renberg has meetings, and they might do a student study team meeting, and then they move him up into those supplemental supports for things that he might need that are a little extra beyond what he's getting in the classroom. So that might be an intervention group, for example. And then we find out, poor Smarty Sam, he's really having some trouble. And so we want him to get some more targeted instruction in reading, and we might bring him through and do some more assessment. It could be more assessment that looks at really, really intensive reading. It could be assessment that looks at special ed intervention, because maybe we found out that Smarty Sam has some disabilities, and so he needs those top level supports for just a few students. Then we have Delightful Debbie, and Delightful Debbie is in that same classroom, and she's every day her teacher does some great things to bring people together, but out on the playground, Delightful Debbie's having some trouble, and maybe she has some drama with some of her little girlfriends, and she finds that maybe she's not making friends really well. And so even though she's getting all those supports in her classroom, we have some supplemental supports that little Delightful Debbie can get. She might have a group with Mr. Sandoval about how to make friends, and so that intervention. And we might find that we're looking at data in a program we use called Swiss, and she's doing great in the classroom, but there out on the playground, we're finding she's getting referrals. And we know that because we've looked at that information that's in that system. And surprise, surprise, after all of those great interventions, and she got to be picked for one of those safety duty people with Mr. Sandoval, and she's doing so much better. So she doesn't have to go up to that top tier and get those individualized supports because those things worked for her. And then we have Jolly Joe. And Jolly Joe, he's also in that same class, and he's getting all those same things that every day we talk about attendance and how important it is to come to school. But we found out that Jolly Joe, he's starting to not show up all the time. And so just like every other kid, he's getting reminders from, don't forget, you have to come to school, or we have these things coming up. Everybody gets that, but sometimes we're finding that Jolly Joe isn't sick and he's still not coming to school. There's something going on. So he might get a tier 2 intervention. He might get a letter from Mrs. Remberg that says, wow, we're really worried, your child isn't coming to school, and his parents might want to, be thinking about having some other supports, like maybe they don't have a car, or maybe they need some things like an alarm clock to get up in the morning. So we might have some supplemental supports. And then maybe he's really having some pretty bad attendance problems, and he's, poor Jolly Joe, he wants to be at school, but his family can't get him there. He might have a visit from Jeff Kramer, who is actually doing some home visits and talking to families about things that might be, they might need in the community. Maybe the parents need some referrals for some services that are outside of our district. And those kinds of supports might be those few individualized services for Jolly Joe. So even though it's a new initiative and there's some things, what we're doing with the grant is really trying to integrate things we already had in place in order to cover all kids with all different kinds of needs. So we then moved on as we were meeting, and we talked about some really targeted things that were going on in our district that we could use the system to make some improvements. So attendance was our next focus.
And so we are making many different changes, but attendance was one that we all agreed on K-5 because it involved all three of the tiers. It involved the behavior, the social emotional learning, and the academics, because everything is affected by attendance. So we filled out the priority goal practice, and basically we chose, another reason we chose this was because it aligns so well with our LCAP. We're trying to not reinvent the wheel here. We're trying to do double duty with LCAP and things like that when we can to really streamline our focus. So I was completing the self-evaluation form and discovered that we didn't get very high marks on our attendance because one of the requirements or the highly suggested activities was that as a district we should be looking at our attendance as K-5 together. So we said, hey, let's do our site councils together. We'll meet together once a month and we'll talk about our attendance goals and see how the things that we're doing are making a difference K-5. And that also met along with our 2 site goals because we really want to align our schools really closely so that it's a smooth transition for our students. So really following along with our LCAP and working with our multi-tiers.
Surprise. Okay. So to sum it up, I don't have my glasses. MTSS, like Kathy was saying, we have our LCAP, our Local Control Accountability Plan. And the design, MTSS is designed to not create yet another system, but to combine them into one system. And so we take the LCAP and the goals that we have laid out in the LCAP, and we realize them through MTSS, through these goals that you saw in the action plan. So we took that goal of improving attendance that's in our LCAP, and we said, well, how are we going to do that? We're going to do it by taking these action steps. So we have to look at it very in-depthly. So MTSS is a vehicle that helps drive us toward the goals of our LCAP. And most importantly, when you think of MTSS, they give us this image of the umbrella. And there's 3 main stems of the umbrella. And so we look at behavior, academics, and social emotional. Those are those 3 main areas. And it's for all students. All students fit under that umbrella. All means all. And we look at our administrative leadership for help in this, to make this, to realize the goals. We want to have an integrated educational framework. That's where we're integrating all of these pieces. We look to our families and our community for engagement. And then we want to have that inclusive policy and structure. So that's what we're building, is a structure and a system that's inclusive.
Thank you. Any questions?
Great job.
Any questions?
Yes.
That's SWISS, right?
It's a program, it's school-wide information systems, and Jeff can talk to you about that. They're using it at Blosser.
School-wide information?
System.
Yeah, this SWISS program is designed to help us input data that we receive. It's all data-based, and the idea is to help isolate and work on areas that look like they might be showing up like high on scale, like it might be behavior or it might be attendance and things like that. So
It looks at the time and the location and the type of behavior. So you might find, the problem isn't necessarily a particular kid, but you find you have more referrals that happen like right in front of the drinking fountain. And so SWIS helps us look at, well, maybe it's not that particular kid because every other kid is having trouble. And so when the teacher makes a referral or the staff member makes a referral, what they have to put in the data entry is the exact location. You know, it's more comprehensive than just entering a referral in Aries, because then you can get a chart that says, okay, we've had this many behaviors today, and most of those behaviors happen at lunch, or most of those happen inside the classroom, and so we know maybe we want to give our support for inside the classroom. So it's basically an online data collection that through the grant we were able to purchase for Blossom.
Okay, so
and so what it does is we take a look at the function of the behavior, you know, what's causing it, why is it happening now. We present it to not only the teachers, but we meet as a team and we develop a plan to help kind of like allow that to kind of go away.
then the grant paid for a computer program basically, as well as maybe personnel that enters all the data, or is whoever finding an issue with, you know, what did you call me? Dolores?
Oh,
Something like
Delightful Debbie.
Delightful Debbie, no. Did that then, my teacher would enter into this program, Delightful Debbie had issues at lunch, and then you're going to check that so did Jolly Joey and Smart Sam, okay, a cluster of us. But each teacher would need to then report, or who's making the...
So the referrals will come in. They get a referral sheet, and on those referral sheets are different areas that we target. So it's behavior, or emotional, or whatever. And then they turn them into Mr. Sandoval, who inputs them all.
Oh, he does that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, and then it's almost like Aries in that they sort themselves out, and whoever's interested in Jolly Joe can just click on Jolly Joe and find out how many issues he's had? Or do you leave Jolly Joe kind of anonymous?
It's really not about Jolly Joe, it's about what are the high-end behaviors that we're targeting. So if it's like defiance, let's say defiance is like the high end at 11 o'clock, it's right after brunch, and we're having a hard time getting the kids to kind of settle in class.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to meet as a team, we're going to discuss behaviors, we're going to look at some interventions and see how they start to fit into this program and get the kids to settle down. So some things might be, you know, doing circles when they come in, doing mindful minutes, things like that to kind of bring them in quieter.
Okay, so then, I'm sorry, I just need this to be a little more concreted in my head. What happens is, you look at it, there seems to be a spot where there is consistently an issue of some sort of behavior, right? And so then what ends up happening is that gets kind of documented, gets kind of inputted, and then your team meets and says, okay, we have one of two options. It would look like either Delightful Debbie is not kind of conforming, Or this is a particular spot of issue and we need to modify that particular spot.
Yeah, it helps you decide, do I need to give the intervention to the student or do I need to work on the environment?
On the environment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so then if it's environment, that's kind of administrative, teacher, whatever, and they sort of fix it. And if it's student, then you decide to go up the ladder, where, there.
Yeah,
Then you go up the, oh, okay.
Right. We have a separate team for the tiers that look at interventions for different levels as it goes up.
Oh, okay, so how does this fit with student study teams or whatever you're calling
Student study teams is a separate thing. That's more for just bringing problems to the forefront.
It's one of the vehicles because
Yeah.
one of the ways that we find out whether a kid needs social, emotional, or academic or behavioral support might come through the student study team. So I would say the student study team, it's that kind of that middle thing that flows back and forth. That's how we gather, that's one of the ways that we gather data and information is through the SST notes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's a part of what you're meshing all together.
Yeah,
That's
like
more
the purchase of the
specific.
SWIS program is really just one little piece of the grant. I mean, that we were kind of looking at what are we missing or how are we, how do we know what this data is? Well, that was something that Aries couldn't do for us. So, that was something we did. But there are other things, like little tiny things that we've done with the grant, like you'll see the new sandwich board in front of Brookside that says, yesterday we had 96% attendance of students and, teachers was 98% attendance, good job. So every day now, one of the ideas was that the parents can see, oh wow, we're improving, we're doing well, and the staff can see we're improving. So just that little sandwich board was something that came out of the grant and an idea that the team came up with. Lots of little things.
A big one though is our focus on all of the paraeducators getting training. And so we paid through the grant for the paraeducators to stay late so that they can take the professional development, like a lot of the unlocking the code and other professional development that we offer. So it makes everybody a more cohesive, effective team.
Okay, so then the financing from LCAP is not necessarily targeted at those in-services because you have a grant, or how is?
They combine, they support each other, the funds do.
Okay.
We make sure we spend the grant money first
Okay,
because LCAP has a much broader scope. of what-
exactly. Oh, okay,
So-
I was,
We make sure we spend every grant dollar first
uh,
and then make sure that we'll take what we have to in LCAP, but because it aligns with the goals. But we want to make sure we spend our grant funds. You don't want to never turn money back.
well, no, of course not. Well, okay, I wasn't understanding exactly where the in-servicing was coming from and how it was kind of being justified between us. I sort of think I understand this. Smarty Robert or whatever your name was, you're going to help me with it, right? Sure.
Wouldn't it be great to have a school where every student had an IEP?
Well, almost, truthfully.
Not that Kelly had to do all of them, but
Yeah, no,
every
Kelly,
student
we give
had
you 3
that.
assistants, okay? I just didn't see
Yeah.
it.
Did you have a
I
question?
think you had a question for your group.
Oh, do you have questions?
So what I'm hearing a lot of is it's about social and behavioral components of this grant, right? First off, from the funding, because I'm a funding guy, is there a maintenance of effort associated with this?
Is our what?
Is there a maintenance of effort associated with this?
Well, the maintenance of effort is through the special ed program that you're talking about.
No,
There's a
money that
mandate.
you have to kind of give in order to be able to get the money associated with it. So it's like a local effort.
Yeah, no, it's not a matched, it's not a
It's not
matched,
matched.
It's not a
it's a
matching
straight up
grant.
grant, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
And
didn't
then-
have to match the funds for the grant.
You don't have to match the funds
Yeah.
or anything like that. So then the other part of it is that it seems like it's very IEP based, individual education based.
Actually, no, and that's what we've really liked about it, is that in the past, a lot of times, in order to get that really intensive support, a student would have to go through a full assessment and, do they have a disability or not have a disability? With MTSS, we're trying to get the kids supported at a lower level so that we don't have to assess them for special education, and they don't have to have like an eligibility in order to get those extra supports. They're just going to get it because we've got all the data, and we can show, hey, this kid really needs it. And like the example that we used with Paula, that kid didn't need to have a testing because of her behavior. She got that little group And that was enough. And she, went back and was able to get along with other people without having to go have an IEP or be a special education.
Okay. And then from this perspective, though, is it also, when we're talking about the educational component of it, is the framework designed in order to be able to help build the academic structure?
Right.
Or
So
is it like
so there's
just
this academic,
behavioral?
social, emotional, and behavioral. So for tier 1 for academic, it's the classroom curriculum that the teachers are doing every day. So like the benchmark program or unlocking the code, everybody gets that. And then some kids, they get pulled out of the classroom, or they might get pulled to a back group because they need that more structured support. So they might be in a small reading group, or they might go to another classroom to get some reading instruction because they're just not progressing the way we would think. That's the second tier for academics, and then the third tier might be an assessment or some other intensive interventions.
And is there secondary review on this as well?
One other thing that we're doing is we're trying to create an environment or change the environment so that the kids want to be in school, because a lot of it has to do with attendance. And if the kids don't want to be in school, they can a lot of times talk to parents about not going. So we're trying to create an environment where the kids want to be there, they're having fun. We've started after-school programs like a chess club, a soccer club, and a fishing camp, and things that kids like to do. So that's all part of it, all just bringing everybody together. And we did we did a whole big family, was it like a open house where we had like food from them, and they brought their families, and we did a sing, the kids sang. So it's just bringing the whole school district together so that we can kind of get the kids in school.
And the reason why I asked for the peer review aspect of it as well is just because, as a former ESL student that never spoke a lick of Spanish, I had a major problem with actually navigating myself through school when I went from one of the say it was from first grade, but it was at the tail end of first grade, mostly from second grade to 7th. I was in mostly ESL classes. I didn't understand much of what was going on, mostly because of the fact that a lot of it was taught in Spanish, and I didn't know Spanish. So I'm just trying to keep it in the perspective of making sure that it's an appropriate fit as opposed to a silo of certain
Right,
people
and that's what we're trying to avoid, because if you take a student who's an English learner, for example, and you put them in that framework, so lots of kids who are English learners, all of our teachers have, as part of their education, had to learn strategies for how to work with English learners. So they're all getting that, and then some kids that are, not progressing, we might sit down and look at the data and go, oh yeah, this kid needs a little more intensive support. So it's really anybody with any issue. It's a system for us to catch them so that they don't go, until 11th grade.
I stopped actually going.
Yeah.
Technically, I went to college and learned in college, and I kind of just went through the motions in high school, but I never took high school seriously because I was getting more like A's and B's in college, and I just kicked back and got D's and C's in high school and didn't really care at that point, just because I was no longer associated with the schooling that was being provided to me at that level. And so that's kind of something that I want to avoid for my child who's going into Boston next year. And I just kind of am concerned about some things, because I take her education very seriously, mostly because I felt like a lot of mine. The running joke was I was there, but I wasn't there. I'd always show up for homeroom and then always be carted off into a second room where I was, taking care of that.
To kind of respond to that, we're really, that's one of our targets for next year is what are we doing with EL instruction?
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big proponent of pulling them out of the classroom.
Yeah.
And I know that I have a couple board members who are really into that, and that's something we really want to take a look at. And we have a window of opportunity with some people close to retirement and sharing a position that I think we're going to really look at what we do. Because there is no requirement that, just because you have a heritage doesn't mean you have an English problem.
Yeah.
And just because, you may be a third generation, you've never had anything but English.
Yeah.
And so we have that all the time, and it happens a lot at the high school. That, we have the opposite of Stream, where in May we had 2 students move to Brookside from Mexico who spoke no English. And so we have both ends of that. We have to be able to deal with both ends, but we need to make a very quick assessment. It's not hard to make an assessment. We just need to make sure they have a plan that makes them the most successful, not put everybody in the same batch.
I hear you.
Another piece of the grant that when we all got trained, we heard a lot, and you guys can echo this, but is it's not a place. Special ed isn't a place, EL isn't a place. It's the kid's going to get that no matter where they are. If they need to get that in the classroom, they can get it there. They don't have to go, see, one person or another. We can meet their needs without having them have to get pulled out of the regular environment, because they're all still that bottom tier. That never changes for the kids in this model.
And how on board is the staff on this implementing this?
Well, we've got another year or two to go in the grant, so this year has just been us sort of getting the framework going, and I think, the board meeting tonight was, kind of talking about it. And
the staff is really on board, because if you're a classroom teacher and you're struggling with a student, you're looking for help.
Yeah.
Nobody comes and goes, well, I don't have to worry about him, he's just one of 22. No, they all struggle with a student, and when they do, they actually need a resource other than just going to see the principal. Other than saying, well, I guess they must be in special education. Because special ed should be the last thing we do. It's not the first thing, it's the last thing we do. Yeah.
I agree. I just wanted to add a couple things. So to answer your question, like how on board is the staff? So all things take time, and this has been developed over many years. Even though this is our first year really working on MTSS, we've introduced parts of it, like having a universal screen, DIBELS for reading, was a big piece of knowing how to address the needs of those individual kids. And SWIS I see as similar data because it drills down in behavior like DIBELS drills down in reading. We can actually see where those behaviors occur, by whom and when and why. Perhaps we can garner some more information about what's going on, just like we can with our data. So data is really the key to this, and we've put in place over the last 2 years DIBELS. So we've all had to learn and get on board with that. And right now I'd say we're all on board. We use DIBELS, it's just become integrated into our practice. And this year we brought in DIBELS Math. So, and then in EL we have those assessments. So we're creating more universal data that we can use to make these decisions. And then like Mark was saying, the decisions can be made a lot faster. A special ed request can take at least 2 months. And this way student's having a problem, and we can look at our data and really come in with a solution through the SST team. So things all these practices that we have or partially had are coming into alignment so that we can really respond as soon as needed to the need of the student.
Just to give you a thing, look, I want to tell you what DIBELS is, first of all, because that's not a normal term for most folks. Dynamic Indicators of English Language Success. It is a nationally standardized language arts assessment that goes from basically pre-K, I believe, through 8th grade now. But the DIBELS assessment is a nationally standardized unit that we use. It's not something we made up. So you can look around the nation at schools who use DIBELS, and when it says that a child scores at 3rd grade, 4th month, that's a very accurate indication of where they're at. So important is it that we do a testing team. The teacher doesn't go, well, I did my kids, they did their kids. We have a testing team that does everybody, so there's a joint comparison, not just a room by room. And we use that really carefully to help guide instruction. Because it not only does it tell you the student's not reading well, it tells you exactly what they're not doing well in reading. It'll tell you, for example, they don't know the PH sound. I mean, it can be that specific.
Okay. And is there going to be additional staff that's associated with this program, or is it going to be using existing staff?
It'll be the staff we have. This is kind of the leadership team that'll help direct it with the teachers. And that's the important part, is that we can't take care of, unless you're a school, Sherwood isn't nearly as necessary to have all this because they have a small number. There's 56 total kids, K-8. But here, you have 100 plus in a grade level. it's pretty hard to know every student individually. And so when you get into a larger setting, these are important. They're benchmark things that students who struggle, we need to group together and do an implementation. It can't just be the teacher can't have that baggage in their classroom to try and deal with where this student has this student has that. And so we try to use this to use our resources better and to know what's going wrong.
Can we steer this back?
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No.
From my understanding when we were reviewing, I'm sorry I'm like lambasting this.
Your questions are welcome.
There has been a decline in teachers recently over in Gloucester Lane and everything, as far as I can tell with data that we were able to look at. So I'm just
The number of teachers?
Number of teachers, but is that being supplemented by support staff in order to be able to help assist?
Well, it would strictly be an enrollment issue. If we have less teachers there, it would be an enrollment issue.
Okay.
It's a rolling thing. Like one of the things I'm going to report on is our early kindergarten enrollment is really high for next year. So we're, at this point, we're pretty sure we have to have an additional kindergarten teacher. But generally speaking, if you're talking about support, we have more support staff at Gloucester than we've ever had. Its number of teachers is always dependent on classrooms, number of classrooms, how many students are at grade level.
Okay.
And so that's kind of that's how it works at K-6. Once you get to 7 through 12, now you're into teacher certifications, who's endorsed it. So.
Okay. I have a couple more questions. I can wait till the end.
Okay, that's fine.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. P2.
P2. Did everybody get one of these?
No, you got that. You got it. Only you.
I'm the only one who had one?
You, yes, I printed that right before I walked out the door.
Oh, okay.
It's just information.
Basically, P2 is on track kind of where P1 is. We're actually doing better in attendance this second interim than we were the first. But however, when I say that, I'm telling you that 92 to 95 is a percentage of average daily attendance. I'll just bring that home to you. If I have a classroom of 25, that means there's 2 kids gone. 2 kids basically every day are gone. That's a tough thing. Attendance is really critical. I mean, you know, you've heard me rant before about how ridiculous funding school on ADA is. But this is one of those examples of it's telling us stuff. It's all part of why we're doing the MTSS. We're trying to help attendance. And I think you'll see some things next year with some incentive things that we're going to try and do. But, you know, I hate to keep trying to throw out carrots to get students or parents to do what they should be doing. You know, it drives me crazy when I have a parent who's upset and says, I'm going to keep my kid home to cost me money. You know, I don't get that logic, but the reality is that's how we're funded, and so that's why this report is generated. And so we're doing slightly better, but it's not dramatic where, hey, we have lots of funding. And again, attendance is a critical thing. And for me, I don't even look at this in regards to funding. When I look at this, I look at student performance. I'm not, you know, funding would be great, but even if we got exactly the same amount of dollars, I'd rather they be in the classroom.
Makes sense. Done with that?
Yes, sir.
WTA comments?
Oop, you missed one.
Got P2. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm handing you out a sheet, and what we have to do, LCAP's later, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's way down.
Yeah, well, you can pass them out now when we get to it. Okay.
Yeah, we moved that to action item.
That's right,
five.
I forgot we changed, I'm looking at the old agenda. Yep.
So we're at WTA.
Who's got the WTA straw? Amy.
I'm coming as behalf of Dawn that can't be here. So I don't think I need to use a microphone because I'm always very loud. So Dawn has written a report to share. She had a CTA meeting out of town tonight, couldn't attend. Tessa is recovering well. Today is a CTA Day of the Teacher, and this theme is a great teaching is never forgotten. We've started a Facebook page to collect some of those memories. This week is also Teacher Appreciation Week, and we want to thank the district office, our principals, and wonderful parents that have been celebrating us this week. The WTA will be having Kimmy's Pies delivered on Friday to each of the sites to celebrate. We're looking forward to our next negotiation meeting, which is this Friday. We feel like everything has been moving in a positive direction. We also would like to congratulate our Teachers of the Year. So Willits High School is Shauna Burns. BGMS, Bechtel Grove, is Liesel Hendricks. Gloucester is Amanda Franco. Brookside, Carol Brinkerhoff. Small Schools is John Horton. So way to go, they were nominated and won that Teacher of the Year. So we also do a Teacher of the Year dinner, and that will be happening on May 16th. We're still accepting applications for WTA members' children that are attending college next year for scholarships. And we'll be awarding 2 $500 scholarships to high school seniors this year so far, and we might have more applicants. We officially will announce those names at the senior awards night. May 22nd is Red for Ed Day throughout California, so please wear red. Teachers from all over California will be meeting in Sacramento with lawmakers and pushing for more funding for our schools. So let's stand with them and show our support. I do have some flyers on that. If you'd like to know more about it, I can pass those out. Willits High School will be hosting their open house this Thursday. All of our schools have hosted successful open houses this year, and we're excited about the turnout at Gloucester. Our students were able to perform a song, and we were able to serve a small dinner for our parents and families, so it was an awesome turnout. So here's the information for Red for Ed. You want to pass that around or maybe a copy? Yes. Here's that for you. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan.
Sorry, it's like the CSEA was there. Good afternoon. It's always great to see the little ones at this school. It's my favorite school. They're still innocent and all that. And that poem about the 230-pound bass at Blue Lakes, I want to go see that fit. It's a pretty good one. Negotiations are going good. We appreciate it. It's pretty close with what we got. Not a whole lot. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Dan. We'll go to superintendent comments.
Okay, I'm going to go through a couple quick ones. I'm going to try and be as quick as possible. We were fortunate to get a donation that came to Willits Educational Foundation, and the money will go towards CTE programs. And out of that, we're going to have 2 barns placed out at our farm. That's 50 by 60 and a 30 by 30. And we're coming along nicely in that space. These barns will be a nice addition to it. We have some rickety old kind of shack type things that are going to be gone. And so I'm really pleased about that. And the Willits Educational Foundation is great to work with. And you ask them for a check and we need to get this done, and they're right on it. So it's been a good thing. Prom was last Saturday. Went really well. It's always fun to go to prom and see them. They look like they're 25 years old when they're 17 and 18, and it was great. Negotiations, both groups are going well. We're really close with CSEA. I mean, we're going to meet again on Friday, and I'm very confident we're very close to being done. All our language issues are over, and we've had lots of discussion about wages and benefits. So I'm fairly confident that'll be resolved by Friday. I want to ditto on the open houses. The only one left is the high school. I want to thank Alex for making the trip out to Sherwood. And when you go out to Sherwood, you get fed really well. But we had a really nice open house out at Sherwood, and I appreciate you making the trip. One of the things that we'll talk about in June, and I just want to give you a kind of a precursor to it, Maria and I have spent some time talking about some things we want to do at Bechtel a little bit differently and add and enhance the program. One of the things I know the board members have heard from me already, we're looking at putting in an early high school piece into Bechtel, where the students would be there in the morning, but come up to the high school for 4th and 5th period to be able to pick up some of those high school credits that for those top students would be easy to do and really free up their schedule as high schools, juniors and seniors. More AP, more VOAG, more college classes. So we're looking at implementing that program and putting it into place. I think it'll make a real positive impact. Our new bus should be here in October. It is incredible how long it takes to get a bus ordered and done and through a grant, but we will have it by October. Our enrollment numbers for kindergarten are really high. We are talking about several options. One is a kindergarten teacher, an additional one here. We're also talking about potentially a K-1-2 classroom at Blosser. And the reason for that is we want to make that class focused on second language. Because when I did a survey a year ago, there was a large group of people who said, I would really like to keep my kid in one building or have both my kids in one building. And so part of the issue with that is we want to provide a program where it works. And Blosser has an ideal scenario where they have a large classroom with a restroom and a playground that's attached right to it. And so it has a window of opportunity to put a K-2 multi-age, which is a perfect environment for second language students because they can move between grade levels. And I'll use Robert's daughter as an example. She's a first grader and she's in Julie's room out at Sherwood, but pretty much everything she's doing is second grade. But because she's in that environment, she can go to where her skills will let her go. The opposite would be true, is if she were struggling, she could be doing kindergarten work without having to be moved into a different room. And so we're looking at that class as a language-oriented class, but making a grade span where kids can have some movement and growth. So we just have to look at our numbers. It's all numerically based. Okay, that's it.
Cool. Board comments. Let's start with Claire.
At the high school, we have our link leaders. Sorry, I just got my brain stopped.
That's awesome, by the way. Congratulations on that.
Thanks. Still learning how to talk. But we have our link leaders that will be chosen soon to help our incoming freshmen. And we have open house, like it's already been talked about. We have FFA, they'll be getting their state degrees at open house, and we have our end of the year banquet. Our sports teams are done for spring. Tennis got second in league, and we beat all the teams, so that was cool. And I got to be a part of that too, so that was fun. And yeah, we had prom, and I think we're gonna have finals in like 4 weeks, so getting ready.
Count the days?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baldwin.
None at this time.
Paula?
I have a lot at this time. And so I'm going to read it all to you so I don't forget it. I'm writing mostly, or rather I'm reporting, to explain that I truly love and encourage people to come contact me about Willits school issues. I guess I should sort of say this. I was elected to represent you, and I really believe in doing so. I'm reporting the following because so many people are unable to attend our meetings or stay. And then there are many other people seeming to want to know. I have been contacted a lot. And so this is in response to many of the phone calls and conversations I've been having or receiving about Willits Unified and the high school. Yes, the law was broken. Worse, the consequences for breaking the mandated reporter law seem very minimal compared to the damage that was done. What type of consequence was it? That of being required to provide in-services approved by a district attorney, Mr. Eisert, for Mendocino County school districts, when it's required only if the districts want them to attend. There's also already video in-services online, and participation is already mandated in Willits. There was also a misunderstanding between the superintendent and I, apparently, regarding his comments in the paper. I do not agree that all 100% board members knew about this from the beginning, or that 100% are in favor of putting people back in the positions they had previously. That is to say, the Willits High School principal's chair. First, the dates seem to be differing regularly, and some of us learned much later than others of us. There's also yet to have been a vote, so we can't say that people are 100% in favor on this board. I'm especially personally, and as your representative of the, truthfully, I've never had so many people call me in the last 3 weeks than I have received phone calls from, or stop me on the street, which has truly surprised me as well. I wasn't even certain that many people knew me. But truthfully, I'm very opposed to allowing anyone who breaks one of our most sincerest vital laws in education, that of being mandated reporters and protecting our students, to return to the same position, especially when it's such an impacting decision at that. Every district employee, including board members, are to be in service and tested on mandated reporting. That's required by August, unless of course you come to the board late, and then it's required within a month of the time that you are on the board. And it happens every single year. Now, I know that the superintendent and I had a discussion on mandated reporting, when it's your responsibility or not. I contacted attorneys, same as he did, it seems. And what I learned is it is a 24/7, 365 or 366 day, a year obligation. You don't pick or choose, you report. And whatever you report is what you have either heard about or observed, and another agency will do the investigating, either to send on to an additional agency or to just tell you everything is fine. There is also a 3-year probation period which concerns me, and that has its other, well, basically, the word I was using was consequences, but it's not even that. It's just either ramifications or connotations. I also received a number of questions concerning the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, how they handle issues. I spoke with a man named Mark S. He said that there are no protocols and there are no automatic consequences. Everything is covered on an individual, confidential, one-on-one basis. He also reminded me that you are welcome to call between 12:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon, and his phone number is 916-322-4097. Then last month, there's that. Then last month, there were articles, there still are, in the newspaper concerning our schools. I commented at the last board meeting that I had more research to do and I would follow up. This is what I've learned so far. The maintenance department has about 30 labor hours a day, not counting office time nor a budget. That means they have about 600 hours a month, or a minimum of 6,000 hours a year. These are 12-month employees. They are expected to maintain and repair our buildings, and it does not include the time necessary for vacations, for absences, for emergency issues. That 6,000 hours is a lot of time in which to make repairs a priority, fix or replace roofs, heaters, air conditioners, drinking fountains, plumbing or electrical issues, and a myriad of other old building related concerns. To make myself clear, because it really does concern me when I'm misquoted or misrepresented, at this time I am not at all in favor of any bond or parcel taxes. I believe we need to make use of what we already have in place. We have a reserve account, which has been called a number of things, but is currently called the Economic Uncertainties Fund, and an additional reserve account attached to it. As of the last 2 meetings on the paperwork, it shows that we are now at over 10%. The law currently requires a 3%, and it was just 4 years and 5 years and 6 years ago, and 3 years ago, allowed to be as low as 1% by the state. That 7% difference, more or less, is about $1.8 million, and it can be used for any number of things. I'm a firm believer in paying off old debts before you incur new ones, and I truly believe that our superintendent and district office have been doing a very good job securing grants for various district needs. And I also believe that between their skills and our putting all of our resources together, we don't need another bond fiasco or a parcel tax, especially at this time. I believe that the district needs to continue to work on spending priorities and other funding resources so that our schools are maintained and kept clean without any additional economic burdens. Now lastly, which isn't really lastly, but very close, since this is the last board meeting before the graduation and summer school programs, congratulations from everyone I know, and especially myself, to all the promoting and graduating students. I hope and expect to attend many of the upcoming ceremonies. I'm looking very, very forward to seeing our summer school sessions, especially their smooth running, including especially one that's really important to me, and that's Nuestra Alianza, hoping that they maintain or receive and then maintain their share of custodial time, high schoolers making up credits, and extended sessions trying to maintain our students' skill levels, gosh. And then, this is truly lastly, it's been really fun to read the little bulletins from the 3 sites that I get bulletins from. And I was especially impressed because of my past that there were so many forms of appreciation to teachers, so many ways the district was saying thank you for doing what you do. And I know that probably there were years that I wasn't sure, but I truly am sure now. Teachers and everyone that work in a school district are 100% appreciated by everyone. Often it forgets to go from your brain to your mouth. But it just seemed like a lot of extra things I noticed this year. And I truly believe that's a big deal. It's a big deal when it comes from the administration, the associations, or people on the street dropping by telling you you do a good job. And you kind of look at them like the military personnel often go, oh yeah, well thanks, it's my job. It's exactly the same thing. We are a mutual group. We work towards the one common good, and that is of our students. Anyway, you needed to know all that. Plus, I hope we continue discussions on the K-2 combo class, because that is an issue. Lots of things are issues dear to my heart. That's one of the bigger ones at the top of the list. Okay, so I'm done.
Mr. Chavez. I'll try to keep it shorter.
Thank you.
You know, I appreciate the kids coming and performing. I mean, I was tearing up at some of those presentations. They're so darn cute. But it reminds me of why we're here. It's for those babies. And for this baby over here, thank you so much for all the work and all our babies that will be graduating. I'm sorry I didn't make it to the open houses. I'm coaching the Otters now, so I'm on the deck of the pool at that time. But I did get to help out with the high school swim team. We have some courageous kids out there doing some really good things. I'm really excited. The staff, teachers, you know, we've always talked about what's a magic bullet. And in education, there's no program or one specific thing that's a magic bullet, but the bullet that I've always seen are the teachers. You want a magic bullet? It's a great teacher. Always has been, always will be. lastly, I want to tip my hat, although we do this all through education, but to the high school. They have been down a few people in their front office, but they keep that big monster ship moving on and getting things done. And so my hat's off to Rose Metlin, Karen Thiel, Lucy Kine, Nicole Burke, and Marion Lona. They did a great job of keeping that thing going, and thank you, Superintendent, for helping them out and continuing that moving forward. And so I appreciate all that hard work. Otherwise, and there was one special little girl in the yellow dress that just did a fantastic, great job, and you know, I'm really proud of my kids. So thank you all.
I'd like to echo the kind words that have been said about our teachers. The Appreciation Week should be Appreciation Month, if nothing less. But I'm really tickled to find that there's going to be some movement on securing much needed funding for public education. This Red for Ed Day of Action in Sacramento. I think it's long overdue, and I'm hoping that it gets tremendous attention. With respect to, I'd like to make a couple of quick comments with respect to the issue with respect to the high school principal. Got to understand that there's been multiple investigations were undertaken, both internally and externally. Internally, that was led by Mr. Westerberg. I have complete confidence in his decision to put our principal back in place in the position that he's currently in. I believe that if the investigation had shown anything more significant than what actually came out of it, changes would have been recommended and suggested, and we would have taken appropriate action, is my opinion. I have complete confidence with Mr. Westerberg and his placement of personnel as far as administrators. Had a wonderful time at the Blosser Elementary and the Sherwood School open houses. They were really, really well attended. Blosser was amazing. I want to say many thanks to the teachers that had all those kids out there doing this really an awesome program. I even bought the sweatshirt, so yeah. So and then up at Sherwood, you know, it is a bit of a drive out there. It seems like you start driving out there, and I don't get out there very often, but as I'm driving out there, I'm like, did I pass it already? Where is it? And finally, you come up on a little rise, and there it finally is. So, but the facility is looking better and better every time I go out there. You guys are doing a wonderful job bringing it up to, improving the way it looks. They got a nice little garden going out there. The kids that are out there seem to be truly enjoying the experience. And what's even more important is it appears that all the teachers that I see out there seem to be truly enjoying the experience, despite their having to drive all the way out there every day. So thank you very, very much for what you guys are doing there. It's making an impact, and I think it's a really important impact. Now if we can just get that kind of turnout for the high school open house. Somehow we got to get more people involved. So thank you.
I think it's our principal.
Pardon?
No.
Okay. So we're off to the action agenda. Any public comments on the consent agenda?
Yes.
This is on the consent agenda.
Or not on the agenda? Consent agenda.
On the consent agenda. No public comments on the consent. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
And a second. Paul? Okay. Any discussion on the consent agenda? No discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Item C is in Charlie. Approval of resolution 2018-19-17, funding agreement with the State Water Resources Board.
This is a grant. This is the drinking fountain grant. It is $200,000, and it will include not only the purchase, but the installation of those units, those filtration stations. stations, and there's 4 of them right now at Blosser. And Dan, do you have an idea how long it took to put one of those in?
No, I was working on another project.
Yeah, I'm trying to guess the number of hours, but it's fairly complicated to attach them outside, have the water and power and everything. And we've asked for about 36 of them. And so if we didn't have installation money, I would tire our maintenance up for practically half of the summer or more just doing this. So it's a great grant. Our data helped us, our water issues helped us, and so the ULC filtration stations, I believe there's 10 of them coming here. There's about 8 at the high school, 6 or 7 I think at Bechtel, and a few more at Blosser. So it will really help. Sanhedrin has 2. So this letter is a resolution that we accept their grant, basically.
A motion?
I move that we accept the grant.
Okay. Second. Any further discussion?
Yes, so the money that the grant money that is coming will cover other people to come in and do, or
Other people come in and do.
Okay.
It's built into the grant.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I had the option of...
Yeah, I understood it. I just thought it meant all the tools and junk, but stuff would be there, and then you have people get them over there, and I had issue with that. But,
Well, I had 2 choices. I could have applied for a grant that maybe we wouldn't have got. It would have been easier to get if I didn't ask for installation. But we're out in front. We're only the 2nd one in all of Northern California who's been approved.
Oh, okay.
So we're way out ahead of everybody, so there's plenty of cash, so I was able to get the installation.
Well, that's what I think is really good.
Any other
clarification?
Do you know when they will be put in at the high school?
I never know with grant money how quickly I get it, and because there's requests for proposals and installation and all that. My hope is to have them for the fall, because that's the sooner the better. And we're going to start at Brookside. Brookside has the most water quality issues and need for it. Then it's going to go high school, Bechtel, Blosser, because Blosser already has 4 of them sitting out. And Sanhedrin will be last because it's just the 2 installations.
Okay, and so the issues that Blosser sometimes runs into because of, I guess, their location or whatever, are those kind of looked into so that they're either covered better or whatever, so that they always seem to work?
Well,
or is it just
there's actually a unit that we're going to get several of them that is meant to be outside and is freeze protected.
Oh, okay, that's
But that's the $3,800 version.
no doubt.
Okay, so at Blosser, I didn't have $3,800 a pop.
No.
And so the guys came up with a pretty creative solution to try and keep them heated. And so it worked fairly well, but this grant, I went through with the people and go, no, that needs to be heated, that one needs to be heated. I kept thinking, yeah, are you going to fund it? That was the issue.
Oh, okay, because that's, I mean, it doesn't have to be all of them that are perfect every instant, but there has to be a few.
The beauty of this is no match, and we're out in front from other districts getting it done. So,
thank you.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Or do you need to?
Any nays? None.
It's just right here.
Okay, we have first reads for D, E, F, G, and H. Hopefully you've all had a chance to do your homework. We'll see those again next board meeting. Any comments on D, E, F, G, or H?
I just didn't completely understand, okay? All of H, I guess. Whatever is the recovery for property loss or damage. Oh, is that, okay, so that's G. Okay, so, all righty, I'm sorry. No, I keep switching from one to the other.
It's your side.
Okay, well, so if you could maybe give me one concrete example of one instance so I could kind of put it in my head that way. It talks, well, you know, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a concrete example.
Oh, okay. It just talks about kids who are like foster kids or homeless or whatever, don't have to pay debts. Okay, so I understand that part. I understand that a long while back, if you didn't have library fines or whatever covered, you didn't get your report card, and that ended up being contested enough to be disregarded. And so I just was having trouble understanding
Maybe
why.
if you break a Chromebook. Would that be a good example?
Okay, so if you break a Chromebook or lose it.
$200, say maybe.
Okay, but if you come under the headline of unable to pay or being a foster youth or being homeless or whatever, I mean, there's a whole list of things you can then come up with, then you are no longer responsible for the cost, right?
But understand it's based on law, not policy. That's the problem.
Okay, I just was having trouble distinguishing between who is going to decide that I can or can't pay for a Chromebook or whatever I lose or destroy, compared to whether or not, Trina can. Okay, and that's...
And I'll kind of help you. We'll use the Chromebook analogy.
Oh, okay.
First and foremost, if Claire trips and falls and her Chromebook screen breaks, okay, I don't charge Claire to fix her Chromebook, okay? That's an accidental issue. Now, if Claire goes, I'm so mad, and smashes her Chromebook, she's going to pay to fix the screen.
Okay.
Now, the issue is, does she meet the criteria of paying? And then you have to go through some of that. If you're a foster place youth, okay, well, if you're foster place, there's no parent to go to. Okay, so it really is problematic, but essentially this is all legal issues about who you can officially charge for something and who you can't.
Okay.
If they do property damage on your site, Claire drives through knocks over the marquee. Okay, so if she drives over and knocks the marquee, as a school, I can't, if Claire were a foster youth, I couldn't make her pay because I'm the school. Now I could take her to court, and the judge may make somebody pay in that case.
Okay, okay. Alrighty, I just noticed it seemed to be more of a board policy or an administrative regulation or whatever those letters are supposed to mean.
Yeah.
That it wasn't all connecting and I wasn't certain. It says here, the payment of reward is deleted and the key concepts moved to a BP. Well, I understood BP was board policy, right? Oh, okay, so it just didn't seem as clear as it could have been.
It should be fairly straightforward, but it's if somebody intentionally breaks something, obviously
they should be held
accountable.
There's malice.
Right. Yeah. Now, Paula, what that doesn't mean though is, I'll use Claire again because she's sitting here. If Claire's a foster student, she intentionally breaks her Chromebook.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I couldn't, as a disciplinary thing, require her to do community service.
Right, or deal with her foster parents, because legally they are responsible.
I can ask. The question is about asking.
I mean, they don't have to pay.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I can ask, but I can't mandate.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's
I
based on
certainly
law,
would ask.
not-
Oh, okay, and
not
that
policy.
part I understood, I just didn't understand. There aren't that many people, sorry you guys, I didn't get this.
So we recognize that we've been provided with the first reads for those board policies. I'm going to skip over item I for now and go to public comments for items not on the agenda.
You got aye.
He's skipping it.
I'm skipping over that for now. Public comments for items not on the agenda.
Can I just say one quick thing while she gets ready?
Sure.
So I know this is the week of the teacher, but May 19th through the 25th is classified school employee week. So thank you custodians and your lunch ladies and your secretaries and your instructional assistants. Because they help too.
They do more than
I know
that.
what to say.
Most of us never got along with that yet, and we can amend my report, include you guys, I didn't know
Throw
that
that
as
in there,
well.
Paula.
There, I
But
will.
anyway, just wanted to say that, May 19th through the 25th.
Thank you.
Yes.
We included ours at Blosser with our signs, and I didn't know that, so that's good. Thank you guys.
Okay, are we ready?
We are. Hello, my name is Becky Bowles. I'm one of the two agriculture teachers at the high school.
I truly appreciate what the Educational Foundation has done for their donations of the new barns, which are certainly way past overdue, and I appreciate that. I am happy that they're built, and I do not want to stand in that way regardless of how this may appear. However, the placement of the barns, there are several ways that are going to negatively impact youth. Back in 2008, when I was first hired at the high school for an ag teacher position, the idea was that gardening students would have skills that they would be able to use in 10 years after they graduate, because most of them do not feel the need necessarily while they are in school to put food in the cafeteria so that we can have nutritious food, to teach kids how to cook, to teach kids how to be sustainable, and to eat and prepare nutritious food. I don't think that some of those goals changed. This site plan will negatively impact some of those goals. There are some, as some things get smaller, there is reduced production, and this is where we're at. Way back when, the 15-year plan for the farm included better facilities, like the new ones that are being mentioned. At that time, the mound near the bridge that was the idealized position for a new barn that is under discussion right now was made. It was put in there with the idea that we would finally be able to have animals that were off the ground. So you have to have ground that's about 18 inches up, and then you have to have concrete on top of that if you are having a barn area, and then ground, so that everything drains. We have, and everybody else has, lots and lots of issues with drainage, and that would be the only place on that farm that does not have that. Understandably, you would have to have all the drainage that comes to the inside of the farm, but that is not out of line, and that matches what they are, how it is set up. Scrupulous care at that point was made to remove as much foreign matter as possible. We had 6 dump truck loads of stuff that was removed that was not fit for that pile. I disregard the notion that it can have inadequate compaction after sitting there for since 2008. At the present time, there are 2 gardening classes located in the garden, a dual enrollment college class and a high school class. The garden soil is arguably one of the most productive in the valley. I was returned, so in 2008 we spent about 4 years putting on compost and trying to get that soil as good as we can get it. I was returned to the garden last year and have been working feverishly to redevelop the soil, putting in certainly more than my fair share after the kids go home and during vacations and during the summer, so that every kid that goes through that school and goes into a gardening class can have hands-on opportunities that other people won't, and that requires me to put in more work. After a decade or so, that soil is finally coming into its own. Soil is something that's alive. It is not something, not all soil is not created equal. You cannot mitigate one type of soil for another type of soil and have it be equitable in any way, shape, or form. A couple weeks ago, the students replanted 19 fruit trees in the soon-to-be diminished orchard area. I wanted to thank the community last year for attending the Pumpkin Garden Patch, which made over $1,200 last October. A lot of that money would be used to pay student interns during the summer in the form of stipends, in addition to units of credit for their service. New huge rolls of plastic were purchased in order to solarize, which means you're going to put the plastic over the ground. It's going to kill all the weeds. It's going to bring the earthworms up. It's going to make the soil more fertile. It's going to make my job much easier because now I don't have, right now when we started the patch, Imagine this is the 1st of May and the grass was this tall. There are very few places that you can find that have grass this tall. That soil is just absolutely phenomenal. So I am concerned about my job coming up here. I discussed this with the CTA rep who said that I should be entitled to my opinion, so here I am. I don't want to address the issue in 6 months of why I didn't tell someone that all this was happening and that the garden was, in my estimation, at least unnecessarily decreased. I think that other options should be addressed and are unnecessarily rejected. There are 2 areas of productive soil in the high school. It is the garden and it is the orchard. The current plan will reduce both of those by half. I do not favor the site plan. The barns, in my estimation, should be in a centralized location, which at the present time is absolutely solid. Yes, there are problems. There are problems with every single barn site that is up for grabs. One of the discarded options was the one that was made in 2008 that is directly adjacent to the goat barn and south of the bridge. Across from there, there is another next to the sheep and goat barn. It should be fine. Let's go back to the other mound sort of area. Again, I'm saying that I do not believe compaction is going to be an issue. That ground has sat there since 2008. Yes, it was terraformed on the top. Every piece of ground on that place is going to have the top knocked off in order to make it functional. The other area is a low spot. It is addressed as a swale. That is a minor drainage spot that I personally believe, and other people have looked at it and decided that it would be easy to mitigate that and to send any drainage that normally occurs just 12 feet or so out into the garden. Any area other than that mound is going to require 12 feet of fill on top of the ground. And most of them, so you're going to have to dig down till you come up to some hard compacted earth, and then you're going to have to put 12 to 18 inches on top of that. Now you have the animals to where they are almost out of the mud, and then any concrete is above that. Anything less than that does not adequately cover the job. Another discarded area, we talked about that. Caltrans has said that they would donate some of the soil from the hill. They would bring it over there. I would like for that to be discussed. I think that the garden area, for example, that they're going to decrease is going to require the removal of 2 to 3 feet of ground to make it functional. When I garden with a backhoe, and I garden deep, and it is not reasonable to think that you can just put something on top of that. I've put tens of yards of compost on it. I have mulch on top of it. I have all this stuff that is not going to make it feasible for a barn. I think that the agricultural section of that farm needs to be treasured, not reduced. I don't think the administration cares where the barns go up, only that they go in. It shouldn't be skin off anybody's teeth to make this into a highly functional in all aspects of the agricultural program. A functional facility is like a good kitchen. It's a triangle organization. You have an oven, you have a sink, and you have a refrigerator. Well, having the barns together makes the same sort of sense. It is very analogous to the 3 barns. At the present time, our equipment shed is way on the back part. So you go over the bridge, you walk to the entire back, you grab the tools, you come back to do your job, you go back to put the tools away, and then you go out. I waste 10 to 15 minutes of my valuable instructional time dealing with inefficient planning. I really don't want that to continue. This new barn organization is going to leave an agricultural parking lot in the middle, that the only thing we can do is is mow. There are multiple places that are underutilized at the farm right now for groups who want to have get-togethers. In regard to the site selection, on Friday, there were half a dozen people invited to make a decision on barn placement. No one from the Ag Department, who are subject matter experts, were present or consulted. Monday, I was officially told that the barns were going to, where the barns were going to be. On Tuesday, I was told that I could not contract a contractor to seek options. And this morning at 5:45, I received an email that it was a final decision and no discussion. In the interest of transparency, if the community is indeed uninterested in finding a better solution, then I will let this die, even though mitigating this by reducing the garden and dividing it up certainly is not an ideal solution. One of the ideas was to replace some of that area from the garden with an area across the creek next to the school, which is heavily forested, and no, you can't cut down the trees because the trees are right in the creek zone. It's not an ideal solution. If it comes to pass as planned, one compromise might be, I mean, if I can't do anything with this and everybody says, oh, this is great, all the good topsoil that is in the garden should be removed and put on the western edge. The problem is that we have probably 1 foot to 18 inches of base on top of that. So in order to use it, you have to remove the base. So you remove the base, you put in the topsoil, you still have extra room. This plan limits future expansion of soil-based hands-on activities and production. More work. Each site has problems that will be better. Each site has some problems, and in the long run, and some will have fewer negative impacts. In conclusion, we appreciate the Educational Foundation for their kind donation, but would appreciate a more efficient, less detrimental locations for the barn. This should be a win-win situation for everybody involved. Just because it looks good, it doesn't mean it is a more viable solution in the day-to-day activity. Thank you very much. Yes, I would love to answer questions.
So the foundation gives you them money for the barn, and then, or not you, I mean the district is giving money for the 2 barns.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you were informed that this is going to happen here. There was no, look, we're going to form a committee and make a decision and do all this stuff together.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so who gets to decide that stuff? If it isn't the
Do
people
you want me to
involved?
answer the question?
If you don't mind.
Sure. There are limited places there you can build.
Right.
I had the FFA alumni group, WEF. I had FFA people. I had a contractor. I had Heath Garment, who is a excavator. I had all those people. We met, we talked about options, and the best spots to put them are the spots that we've talked about. For construction, we've already dealt with the issue about if we find good soil on top of the garden, we're going to save that and use that somewhere else. Secondly is that in order to be productive and do all those goals that we talked about, well, we have a gigantic garden space that hasn't been used, not being used, and looks horrible. We need to bring it down to a usable scope that we can manage and operate. If we manage and operate that parcel well, I would be glad to add to that. But currently, that's not happening. And the best places for these buildings are where the entire group agreed with. And so it really comes to a very simple thing. You put structures where they're going to last and work. And I rely on people who do this for a living. One of the people happened to be a VP at Spare Time. They kind of know the business. One of them's a contractor. The other one is the Garments who do all the excavation work. I rely on them to give me the best idea. It has to do with power. There's power readily available right by the site. There's water readily available there. So it came down to a choice. Okay? And I'm not an expert on barn placements and how to use them. But I do rely on them to tell me what they think the best ideas are. The best idea is not to put a facility that's through the drainage of the area. There's another area that was done with fill. Well, Garmin did the fill, and he told me that I went down about 6 inches just to get it good enough so we could grow grass. But if you want to put something there, you're talking about a whole different ballgame of going down deep. There's cement and stuff all underneath that. It's like it's an old dump pile used to be there. He said, I would recommend you not do it there. So now it comes down to where are the spaces? Well, it's fairly obvious where the only 2 spaces left are. So again, nobody is ever happy about any decision. If everybody's happy, it's not a decision. Okay, so it comes down to, do we want to have $100,000 spent putting 2 barns in, where we're not going to have 100% agreement, but we are going to have 2 barns that are really nice. Does it impact what could potentially happen in the garden area? And I'm using the word potentially because it's not happening now. Potentially, yes. If it does, I would love to fix that problem. Just like I would love to fix the greenhouse. I would love to turn the greenhouse into something really productive. But I can't keep going on wishes and buts and someday we want to do this. I have to go on what we have and what we can do. And so that's why the decision was made. We have to turn in a plan to the city and get a building permit. We have to tell them where they're going to go. I've turned in 3 different drawings to them. They've been nice to not charge me 3 times. Okay? We had to come to an agreement. That's why I said the decision was fine. Because we can't keep changing plans. And so, again, if WUSD wanted to build me a science classrooms, and they said the only place we'll put it is behind the football press box, I'll take it.
Is there a short time span between getting the money, getting the plans, and spending it? I mean, are you kind of crunched in, like there's only 2 months, you got to make a decision, that's how come it couldn't kind of...
Well, if you want to use them for kids next year, yes.
Okay, so then the deadline is
It's
now?
not spontaneous combustion.
Okay.
So you got to get the site work done and you got to get them in. I mean, the goal is
Right.
to get it done quickly to have them available.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm told all the time by the FFA people, we need more spaces out there for animals. We've got to have better spots. So we're trying to do that. And I'm trying to facilitate it. I listened to all the comments. I listened to what everybody wanted. But
And there was a meeting in advance where anyone who wanted input could go and give it?
I already knew Mike had had a conversation with Becky about where she wanted him to be. Mike was, tell me where you think the best places are. I met with people out there, talked with them. I met at 6:30 at night with Heath Garman out there on Monday to talk about, tell me if this was your spot, where would you put these? Right there. So that's what I went with. Somebody has to make a decision instead of living on what if we do this or if we can grow this or 10 years from now I want this to be something. Well, it's a mess right now. What I want it to be is productive, and so putting the barns out there is, I know that will be productive. So if we save the soil on top, if it's really good, Becky's right, it grew 4 feet high. Yeah, awesome.
Grass.
Awesome. But it's weeds, okay? We're not selling the weeds. So my reality is I have to make a decision. And I made a decision based on what the professionals who do this and know this tell me where to put it. It's that simple.
Well, I'm sort of curious, just because I heard that there were some orchard trees, fruit and stuff put out there. And I'm not good unless I have a picture in front of me when it comes to dirt and stuff like that. Okay, so I was wondering, is that also impacted now, if those trees are going to be moving again? Or this
Those
is an
trees,
entirely different
those
section.
trees at the Pleasant Time are out of this area, but you're limiting that particular amount. I also welcome anyone that would like to take a tour of the garden, so that I can show you what's going on, and I can show you what the kids are doing, because the kids are really disappointed that all the stuff that they've done is now going to not be able to be used again.
Again, no trees are getting impacted. The ones that are there are going to stay there. They're
These are
fencing
recently-
off the end area of a current, basically it's like a pasture, to put in the 30 by 30 building.
I just didn't understand the process is all I,
And again,
no one's ever happy. I understand the 100%
and
that
I'm not an
doesn't
ag
exist.
specialist.
No, it's just,
I'm a logical, common sense, ask the professionals, where does this go and where does it work? And their determination was it works here.
yeah.
And so I can't go off what we might do 10 years from now in a space. I'm not there. I have the funds that I got to get it done. And if I'm going to get it done, I need to get it done so it's ready for school. And so,
Sometimes if everybody knows the plan, like it or don't, you're at least aware of it.
and
I just wasn't sure.
Thank you for
it's
your
not
time.
going to be agreed on no matter where I put it. I could put it hovering up above. It would be okay.
And,
Somebody would not like it up above.
well, yeah, and that happens. I think that's normal. I mean, I don't think that
Yeah, I
that's
know.
bad or odd. I just, if you have your opportunity is all I need.
Can I bring us back to the agenda? I did miss item I, approval of the 2018-19 LCAP revision.
Yeah.
Let me-
There's more.
Yeah. Continue
Go
on
ahead.
with
You asked for public comments,
public
not on
comments,
the
items
agenda.
not on the agenda.
Yep. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say first off that I'm pleased about the water grant. That, I remember Grace being in first grade and we talked about that back then. We ended up actually bringing a water jug in our group to help her out with that. So it's a good sign in the right direction. So thank you for that. And another thing is, I just wanted to say that I didn't want to necessarily, or I didn't mean to actually bring up my past as a part of something that's actually happening now. Our concern is our daughter. And that's kind of the thing that I'm really focusing on at that point, at this that point. And with her leaving Brookside, which is great, by the way, we love to hear, we love her being here. I really felt that she flourished over here. And moving over to Blosser, we had a little bit of areas of concern when we started looking into things that happened with Blosser and some certain things that happened recently within the family and everything like that occurred in Blosser. So there's some areas of concern that we don't know what will happen with our daughter when she goes over there. So those things, I am encouraged a little bit about the MTSS program, but there are other items that when she goes into Blosser, my worries are, one thing is cell phone usage with kids in there, and I don't know what can be done about that, but I understand that, some things have occurred because of that, and also bullying that is happening in the past. Bullying.
We can't hear you back here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
Cell phone
say to
usage
your ear.
in Blosser Lane. Sorry.
There's a
So anyway, hello.
Yes.
So one of the concerns was about cell phone usage among the students and everything in Blosser Lane, and some content that has been viewed by some of the kids, and also about bullying within the school itself. And one of the issues was my niece was bullied, and the solution that we finally had to come up with was she moved to a different school because there was no way to stop it. So those are two areas of concern, along with, as we started looking into it, just demographics, and you probably already know about these demographics and everything like that, so I don't need to repeat it or anything like that, but if you want to talk about it more. But just areas of concern that we have with our daughter going in. We worry academically about her academics and everything, and we also worry, in some part, maybe about her safety or what she's going to be doing. So, that's all.
Yeah, and cell phones are a huge issue for us. And I hate to break it to you, they get progressively worse as they get older.
Oh, yes.
Claire could probably give us 40 horror stories of how cell phones are used at school, but it's one of those issues where it's not condoned by the teacher.
Blosser though? They can't contain cell phone usage?
Well, they can until you go outside the recess and somebody has it in their back pocket and they didn't know they had it. I mean,
The kid forgot they had it.
yeah, I mean, it's not, this isn't stuff in classroom, this isn't stuff that when the teacher's observing.
Yeah.
And it's before school, after school, it's lunchtime, it's recess, those kind of things. It's really hard. Yeah, the teachers are really good about it. They see a cell phone, they go at it, but, you know,
Even
again.
that isn't 100% consistent.
Is there a policy in place currently? Is it known to the parents that cell phones are not allowed on campus? Is
They're
that
not
very
supposed to be
clear?
at school, yep. And the issue with that is that I get more calls from parents who are mad, well, I want to be able to text my kid and I want to communicate with my kid. And I'm like, well, great, but this is a classroom. You don't text your child during the day, you call the office. And so it really is an argument that has almost equal footing on each side with my kid basically has the right to have their cell phone to their, no, they don't. But I'm just saying, they act as if they have a right to have their cell phone and active and used. And the other parents are like, no, I don't want you taking pictures. I don't want you recording stuff. And so, yeah, it's a real problem.
There doesn't, I remember that when I was at the two elementary schools, different times, there were a lot of issues with no policy that was stood behind. I mean, you could say, if you have a cell phone, it sits on the desk until it's time for you to go home. There's a telephone in every single classroom. You have an emergency, it'll be dealt with. But we couldn't even get consistency at that time between classrooms, let alone between the administration and the teachers. And it is a mess. The arguments are horrendous. Parents go on both sides of the story, which you can understand. It's just, it would be handy if we had a policy that was then enforced, as opposed to, yeah, we got a policy, and that's the end of the sentence.
Well,
so
I don't know what would
future
make you
meeting.
think it's not enforced.
Well, just because I watched it happen.
I can talk from experience. My niece that had actually transitioned to a different school, she was exposed to pornography from another kid's cell phone, and that was at recess. It's
Yeah.
something that content shouldn't be at school. We're supposed to protect these kids, and if there's not a policy in place, then the kids can, do
Well, it's very clear that they're not supposed to be using cell phones at school. Now, do they have them? And did they show them that, and were they disciplined when they found out, that kind of stuff? But the unfortunate thing with the cell phone too, this is not like an iPad that needs Wi-Fi. They're using the cell tower to connect to it. So obviously if they had inappropriate material on their phone, it wasn't coming, we have filtered internet access. It's not coming through our filter. It's coming from their cell phone data that doesn't have any filtering. And so those are legitimate issues. I mean, unless you want to put in a metal detector as they walk through to see if somebody's carrying one. I mean, sometimes they're in coat pockets, book bags, backpacks, and it's not being condoned. I know that by the staff or the administration.
Well, then maybe we just need some sort of collection center and get it at the end of the day.
Again,
you know, something.
You can have a collection center, but if Johnny doesn't put it in there and he's out at recess and he whips one out of his pocket, the collection center didn't make any difference.
Or more supervision.
Someone will see it,
We have
yeah.
more supervision. We have, I mean, to be honest, we have 2 grade levels on the playground at one time with 3 to 4 adults. And a grade level could be 100 kids per grade level. So that could be 200 kids if everyone comes to school, or 180 kids if everyone comes to school. If they're not all in the lunchroom and they're all in the playground, that's 200 students with 3 to 4 adults. So that could be, I mean, honestly, supervision.
Yeah, and it's not 100%. I mean, you could have 1-to-1 and still have it eventually. But
And I have not seen a cell phone on the playground. Personally, I have not seen one on the playground. But I do have students that that'll come up and tell me that so-and-so took their cell phone to the playground.
Well, we used to have issues with, there's a deal on a watch 4
Yeah.
years ago that worked really well to record things and to sit and have conversations with. And to take the watch caused a major issue. And it was decided, at least at that time, that, and we're not talking current administrators, but at that time, that, oh well, you know, that's the inconsistency. Anyway, those are, I truly believe that any points that have anything to do with the school, you need to come and talk about it. It is the district of the community, you know.
And
anyway, that's good.
If we had if I could put in a cell phone blocker, I'd put one in at every building.
I'd love to see that.
And I would first hear from the high school immediately.
Oh,
but
there's a phone in your
I mean, between cell phones, Facebook, and vapes, those are like the three major nemesis that we have going on in school that are, they're like every piece of technology. They bring out the absolute worst and the absolute best in society. And unfortunately, third grade tends to be about the age where some parents think that my kid needs a smartphone. Yeah. I like the flip phones. The flip phones were awesome because they weren't doing that stuff with them. But nobody even sells them.
They sell iPhones that have parental controls on them. Apparently
Right.
some people just don't get it.
Right. And every time a parent talks to me with their son or daughter with a cell phone, I explain to them, you have total control over that phone as a parent. You can log in and not let that receive text, only call out or call in, who can call to it, can you send text? I mean, you can do all that. You can control your child's cell phone. I mean, but again, my question is, if you got to do all that stuff and put all those parameters, why do you have it in the first place? You're in third grade. I mean, what's the point?
Agreed. Can you address the bullying question?
Yeah, I mean, the bullying question is at every school in America. I mean, I read the data all the time about, I think the national average was 87% of the sixth graders that were interviewed said at some point in their schooling they had been bullied at one point or another. The definition of what bullying is becoming a little problematic. It's a little grayer than it used to be. But it's all part and parcel of what we're doing. I know that Nancy and Lorenzo and Jeff spend a ton of time at Blosser dealing with students and interaction. That's what all that restorative stuff is about. That's what having a guidance counselor intervening when they're having these issues. That's what Jeff and Lorenzo do at Blosser. They're both, he's a family therapist and he's a guidance counselor. Because the interacting and get the kids not to behave that way towards one another is the issue. Nancy's really big on positive things for positive atmosphere. And the problem is sometimes you have to have negative consequences too.
That's what I was going to ask about, was more negative consequences associated with it. Because it seemed like when it was occurring, and I remember hearing the story about it, was that it was almost as if the conversation went, yeah, they are doing it, but there's not really much you can do. You can go to a different school. That was kind of like the solution. Is, all right, we can't do much about it, so you go. And
I know who they didn't talk to. They didn't talk to me and hear that.
Yeah.
Because that's not the solution.
Yeah, that ended up being the solution for her, because we finally just we took the advice and she left and went to a different school.
And what I find to be most problematic is it's ones that happen with just a certain one or two people. And the families even get involved and those kind of issues. We've had multiple at Blosser, mom and dad child, bring them in, this is going on, we need to put an end to this. And, you know, we've gotten to the place where it's all become disciplinary. Okay, whoever says the next word, they have to be suspended. I mean, we've gotten to that point with some of them. And Unfortunately, we're a public school. We take everybody. And we try to help everybody. And I know that the teachers and staff do their very best. And it's a real big theme at Blosser about positivity and mindfulness. And so I think you're going to find it to be a really good experience. And again, I'm sorry that you had a family member who didn't experience that. It certainly wasn't intentional or anybody's goal. I mean, it's unfortunate, and it shouldn't happen no matter what school you're at. But in fairness, I get kids who transfer to us all the time from charter school, Levita, some other district, and they were being bullied there. And so it really goes both ways. And I've used Sherwood as an example. And if you go to any school where there's probably the least bullying, it's obviously Sherwood. Because there's only 56 kids and there's K-8 there of kids. So I have kids who are getting ready to go to high school and kindergartners on the same campus. And the 8th graders are awesome with the young kids. But again, you're talking about control, supervision, numbers, all that stuff.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment for any items on the
Just
agenda?
one last thing. I wanted to talk about the K2 at Blosser. And I'm wondering when those decisions will be made and if there's going to be a public to where parents can talk. Because I know we talked about it, maybe in the beginning of the school year, we talked about, the 2K5s, and then that was part of it as well. And so I have concerns with that as a parent. I love my site of Blosser, but I don't feel that it's a site for K2 that includes 3rd, 4th, and 5th. With the issues that were just talked about, how do you keep them separated, the students from K2, away from those behaviors of the 4 and 5, right? Which we might be able to, but I think it'd be very difficult. And then you're isolating them from the other K2, and they're the only K2, or maybe 2 classes of K2. They're very isolated from the other students of their grade level. So the other question is I understand that it's important to do what's parent convenience of making sure they don't have to drop off at both schools, but we have to put our kids first. And what is the best for our kids? Is it the convenience of the parent, or is it that they will do better and thrive at a school where they are, there's more peers and more maybe collaboration with their events, their talent shows, their spooky story nights, all of their things that they have at Brookside that are great for kids. We don't have those at Blosser. And the other thing is, I don't know, I guess that's about it. Just my question is when will you discuss that? When will we possibly put in place? Has it already been put in place and we already know that it's going to happen? Or can the public have say?
First of all, anybody who went to that class would be a parental choice, not a force to go there. Secondly is, we're talking about it being more than just a normal K2 classroom. Bear in mind that there are multiple schools that are in arrangements like that. Sherwood, the Willits Charter Elementary is a K5. They seem to be able to have 5th graders and kindergartners without problems. So that's really not what I think the issue is. The issue about connecting to what the other K1-2s are doing, well, there's a lot of things that go on at Sherwood, field trips and all kinds of stuff that don't happen at Brookside. And so it's about the environment. It's about, do you have the right place? Do you have the right space? Do you have the numbers? Do I have the right teacher to do it? Because it takes a unique teacher to do multi-age. But the issue is we have to do something to look at our numbers. we also need to look at our programs and say, what space works best? And the parents are our clients. And so accommodating a parent may seem like not such a good thing for folks maybe at Blosser, but accommodating a parent and keeping their enrollment and keeping their child is a factor. So there's a fine line between that. We're customer service oriented. And so I want to keep that in mind as well. Change is difficult here all the time, but accepting the fact that sometimes you change and you try things to find out what is good and what isn't. What ifs and I don't thinks instead of we tried it, it worked or didn't work. I'd rather do plan B.
I just think sometimes parents aren't aware of what it means and what it is when you have a K-2 at a school with 3 through 5. I mean, the concerns that were brought up, it's happening. I mean, it's like you said, it's everywhere. And I guess I'd like to know, how are you going to keep them at their own lunch, at their own recess, because we already have issues with that now.
Yep.
And it's more about the money and the numbers of where students are going, and it's more about buildings. It's about what is best for the child. That's it.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Tagging on to Amy's. I think that it's an error for us to compare ourselves and this K-5 expansion idea at Blosser to Sherwood and the charter school. Sherwood has 56 students. The environment alone lends to that family, that small environment. The parents who go there because it's a school of 56 students. Or maybe, there could be other reasons. I think the charter school is attractive similarly. It's a small environment, and it plays well in a small environment. It's not going to play well in a school of 300. It's going to be very different. And I really do hope, I beseech the board to open this up to the public, because it is worthy of public discussion and planning.
I'll get WPA's approval.
You what?
Nothing.
Any other comments, public comments for items not on the agenda?
Just want to mention one more thing, tagging on to what he said earlier about Blosser. When we were looking at schools for our daughter, the bullying came up and the cell phone usage, and also academically those kids are not thriving. Their numbers that we pulled from the Department of Education is 80% of those kids are not meeting standards. That's the whole school.
We are
That's
painfully aware.
I know you are, but we were not. And that's a very huge concern for us. So I think we're kind of looking into this a little too late. Charter schools producing very good numbers. Some of the private schools in Ukiah. We looked at Sherwood, they have a wait list, so does charter. So I kind of feel that we are starting this a little too late, and enrolling my daughter into Blosser almost feels like a dumping ground at this point. Because they don't.
We're all faced with choices.
I understand
Make no mistake of that. I get that. I fully understand your position with respect to you want the very best for your child, as do we all.
Yeah. But maybe my question is, why are those numbers so
Well,
low when I pull charter in comparison? I have a graph here. And
There's a
huge
wide
difference.
range of reasons why the numbers aren't good.
Yeah.
And probably the best thing I can say here is we brought Mark Westerberg on board a few years ago with specific instructions to address those numbers. And we have been putting programs in place that we believe, we hope, will start to show, bear fruit. Unfortunately, nothing we put in place today will fix the numbers from yesterday.
But this has been going on, I looked at
It's been
since
going on for a long, long time, yes.
2014, there's been a very steady decline. And so I guess my question was, what is in place to fix those numbers?
Probably the best thing is I can turn that back over to Mark, because he has
Yeah, and I really think you need to come and see, because I want to make sure you know all your options and what you can do. And I can give you lots of suggestions and help. I'm also the principal at Sherwood, so I'll know the numbers better than anybody. But I'd love to have you come and just give Trina a call and come in. I'd love to meet with you and talk with you and get all the details and know what you're looking for.
But the reading programs have changed, the math programs have changed. Make no mistake, Willits Unified is all about fixing those problems and addressing things like the bullying. I don't know what to tell you about cell phones, but because unfortunately, like Mark was saying, some things are almost impossible to deal with. However, we're not operating in a vacuum here. We are trying our very level best with the resources that we have available to us to provide the best education we can for all the children that go to Willits Unified.
Now, charter, do they have the same curriculum?
Pardon?
No. Does charter does not have the same curriculum?
We are doing a very similar thing to them now in language arts.
Okay.
But yeah, there's time on task issues. Their day's 40 minutes longer. They don't do a short Tuesday. They have 125 more hours of instruction per grade level. Yeah, that's a fact.
Per year.
Per year.
It's not like it's a
Yeah. So.
They just look like, just looking at the numbers, it looks like they're doing something right over there. And I would think that, they're part of the unified school district, right? They're,
Not really.
No? Okay.
In California, they're kind of I don't even know how to say it. They're an add-in to the district. We basically make sure they're following the rules and guidelines that a charter has to. And we approve their budget. In other words, we say, are you not spending more than you take in? And we do that annually, but they get like a 5-year charter, and they just renewed a year ago. So they're loosely attached to the school, but I have no supervision, jurisdiction, or anything over the charter. None. They run their own program. They hire their own people. They have their own contract. They have everything for them is on their own. They're essentially like a private public school operating on their own under the kind of the loose supervision of the Units school district. They even have their own special education program. However, if they have a high needs student, they have to come to us because they don't have those programs. But I can explain all that to you and kind of let you know what your options are and kind of help them. I understand.
Any further comments for items not on the agenda? And then bring us back to item I that we skipped over, approval of the 2018-19 LCAP revision.
Yeah, I passed this out from Nikki, and what I want you to know you're looking at, this is how the funds are spent this year. This is not the stuff we've been working on, looking at adding to and enhancing LCAP or making any changes. And what I want you to know is that what you're looking at, I have one that I marked up, fine, I'll just use this one, is that this is a separate fund. It is part of general fund, but its own fund. And so we had a fund balance in there that we used this year to make sure we could fully fund all our CTE programs. So you'll see a significant increase to what went into CTE expenses, but you'll also see decreases along the way. This gets modified basically as the year goes on. We look at these things, you'll see we have some grants that covered things. We used Title I, we had some staffing changes. We had a student resource officer for the high school. Originally, that was going to be a larger expense, but the city didn't get us anybody in place until the end of the year. So he was with us the last third of the year. So this is a fluid document, and what you need to know is that if someone were to ask you, how did you spend your LCAP funding? It's basically, these are the areas. But again, as I told our LCAP folks when we met, it's part of general fund, we're deficit spending. So anything you want to take out of LCAP, we have to decide, do we want to continue to do or to not do that anymore? It's not a separate fund money that keeps getting added to and we can keep adding programs. It's part and parcel of our budget. And out of those expenses, they have to meet the criterias of the goals that we have. And these things do, but it is a fluid thing. As we go through the year, those change. And so for next year, we're looking at a lot of things that our LCAP committee talked about. Some furniture. Well, furniture at Blosser and Brookside is really tables in the cafeteria. These are horrible. They're worse at Blosser, and they're dangerous. We need to have real tables that fold up and go into the wall, go against the wall. At 6 through 12, it's classroom furniture that we need to look at. We need to add some technology money. We're putting in another $20,000 into Blosser to make sure that we can have more one-to-one. We're already going to be one-to-one 5th grade next year. We want to add some to that so there's more for 3rd and 4th grade. The other issue we talked about there was looking at this site in particular. By the way, this is our largest campus. It has more students than the high school. We don't have enough playground facilities for the students we have. And what we do have certainly needs some updating. I also applied for a grant called the Kaboom Grant. Kathleen and I did that, and we've applied for that. And we should find out in a month or so if we get funded. If we do, that would be great. It might be what we need, or it might be part of what we need, and we use some LCAP funding to make it even bigger if we can.
And this grant will provide what?
Playground.
Okay. Playground
Equipment. Specifically for playground equipment, nothing else. And it's a grant that doesn't pay for installation. So, well.
Did that friend of yours that was the guy?
Yeah, well, he could do it. But the problem with playgrounds is, when you talk about playgrounds, you can go $12,000 to $60,000. I mean, you see some of these crazy elaborate, they look like a Disney World thing. You know, that could happen. I mean, it just depends on what you want to fund. I look at playgrounds from what's the max number of students who can use the structure we're purchasing. Because that's the key, is to have usage.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what's SRO?
Student Resource Officer.
I'm sorry?
That's our resource officer.
Oh, okay. And he is a new, that person is a new initiative, because it's the guy that just got hired in April? Or then next, and this is this year.
He's actually an employee with PD.
Oh, okay. I saw him at Blosser. He just looked really
We pay
happy.
75%, the city pays 25%.
Oh, okay.
We don't use him all year.
Ryan didn't come on until April. We had hoped we were going to have him at the start of the year.
Yeah.
We had already done the agreement to do that, but they went through a bunch of personnel issues, and by the time we got to it, they didn't get somebody to us till April.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why, because it was originally scheduled at 65 or 70,000. But we only put 20 in this year because that's all we're going to need
Okay.
for him, because he only came in April.
But chances are strong he starts again in September. Right?
Oh, he definitely will.
Oh, or
So
August.
this is the end of the year kind of LCAP review.
Oh, okay.
Adjustments and stuff that have been made through the year.
Money's shuffled,
Okay, so then
In June, you'll get the LCAP that we're talking about for the following year.
Oh, okay, so sort of like an unaudited actual kind of.
Basically.
It's what, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so then what is the, then I have another question, which is, there was no admissions fee, we're talking about to the high school stuff, the sports and things, right? Okay, and so for just this little bit of time or the whole year, it's ended up costing 41 grand?
That is for the entire year.
Oh, okay, and that all came out of LCAP, which is part of the general fund, but not what everyone looks at as the general fund.
And that's an
Okay.
estimate too, because what I did was I took 2 or 3 years of gate receipts
Yeah.
and kind of did the average.
Oh, okay, I was gonna ask you how you came up with it if they didn't pay the bill. I mean, you know, if I don't have to pay to
I
go
will
in,
tell you
know.
that I hear from parents over and over how much they appreciate not
I do
having
hear
to
that.
get nickel and dime constantly when they go to a game.
Yeah, I heard, since we're talking about this, and the first one here particularly, that there is some law or rule that we're not following when we don't do anything for admissions or boosters or
No.
whatever?
Totally incorrect.
That's not true?
No.
Oh.
What somebody might be talking about is in our league establishes entry fees for athletic events and thinks everybody ought to do it. It's not a requirement.
Okay, it's just what other places do, and
It's gotta be the same,
it
right?
wasn't very expensive. I mean, they were only talking about $1 or $2 a person or something, but there had to be a fee charged. And I couldn't find any titles to anything
There is
to look it up.
nothing like that.
Oh, St. Helena's.
St. Helena this year went to no charge to get in also.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I just, you know, I need to understand it straight.
Yeah. And I will tell you, when I went to the first soccer game here, half the parents are standing outside because they can't pay to get in, and virtually the entire crowd is all Hispanic folks standing outside. I'm like, this is wrong.
That's why I know. No, but I mean, poorly planned.
Go ahead.
I'd say it's definitely nice because it adds up, but also like when we go away, our parents are putting money into their sports programs, and so then when they come to our school, like they would put the money back into our program, but then just we're putting money into their program. So.
I actually considered having people who wear green and gold get in free. And so the visitors would pay. But again, what are you trying to accomplish? What I'm trying to accomplish is when players at volleyball, how many people can we get in the stands? Because ultimately, I want 500 people to watch our volleyball game, not just the people who can afford it.
Well, there used to be a lot of issue with how much a parent put out for their child's sports. And then go pay for the game too, you know? It just almost got kind of ridiculous. And I would think the plan is participation, and the best way to get that is make it as least difficult.
And the reason it fits in LCAP, because one of the LCAP goals is to bring parents to school.
Oh, that's right, make them involved. Oh,
And
that's
so I virtually have every kid on the soccer team, their parent is at the game and in the stands. And that's what I was hoping for.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the 2018-19 LCAP revision.
Oh, no, we're looking for someone
I'm
to do
looking
that?
for a.
Well, if I'm going to ask them those questions, I guess I'll be the one who asks.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Colvick seconds. Is there any further discussion?
One tiny one, okay, it's just who or what or why are we paying for a web page? Don't we have the head of technology or whatever in the office, and they...
I'm glad you asked that.
Oh, finally, one you don't mind. No, God.
That is a one-time cost that we're having. We are having all our web pages redesigned and done.
Okay.
Along with that, we will have a Willits unified app that goes on your phone. And by the end of the year, you will see a brand new website that makes all the websites look the same and look really professional. And you will have an app on your phone that you just download from Android or Apple Store that you will pull it up and it'll have our logo right on it. You just touch it. Calendars, activities, news, all that stuff. So you literally I'm putting together so when you do something, a posting, like a Facebook posting, now when we post it, it'll hit Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. One time, one post, more people can do it, and that will put more good positive, because right now, I'm the unfortunate Facebook victim, because I hate using it, but it's a social media thing we have to do. And so I'm constantly send me a picture, or every time I go somewhere, I'm taking pictures. Trina, I've got a meeting. Will you go over to Blosser and take pictures for me? So this would allow us a lot better access, and you'll be very impressed with the web pages and the app. It's a one-time cost we rolled into LCAP because we had the funding available to do it, and it's about parent communication.
So and I'm in favor, we all know how truly literate I am with the computer, but that's a lie, I'm not. The thing is, it's an app or a person that needs that money.
No, it's a company called
Oh, it's a
Aptitude.
company. And they come in and set all of it up and take care of it, take your 4,300 and with
It
what
is virtually done already. We've already approved the look of the pages. We've got the app. I played with a demo app. We have that all set up already.
Oh, okay.
And right now, the web pages are being done by secretaries of building sites.
Well, sort of that's what I heard, and
And
I
it's-
just didn't understand this.
I appreciate the effort. The result's not awesome. But
I was impressed I could find it, okay?
So, anything further?
Only before you adjourn, if we're gonna talk about items for next month, or whatever.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, then no, I'll be quiet.
So, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. The items for the future agenda, simply get them to Mark or me. I'm happy to.
Okay, well, so, okay, well, okay. I don't even know though if it's an agenda item. Can I just ask you of one of them? The other one I'll send on. But this has to do with pre-kinders and transition or whatever, TKs, and it's the registration for them. I know that there is a law about ages and things like that. I don't know what happened, but in the last while, 3 different parents seem to have kids that could maybe turn into kindergartners, or maybe not. What is, I don't know their appeal process or anything, and I know June's a little late, but I just learned this. Can any time a parent go to the district and say, I want my kid tested, they should get to go to kinder or pre-kinder or whatever? Any of their issues, or is that something we need to discuss? I mean, I know people would love to
the
know.
law is very clear on what we can do. TK is an optional program. We do not have to do it. For example, the charter doesn't do TK.
Okay.
We choose to do TK, and we choose to do it if we have staffing available. That's one of the issues we're going to have when we have a large kindergarten enrollment. We have to decide, are we going to continue to do TK and hire another kindergarten teacher? A TKer is not funded until they turn 5 years old.
So the district does them for free? Basically. Oh, okay. And there's an appeal process or no to somebody not in the company?
Yeah, do you want to address it? You deal with it.
Do you want me
all
to
the
just
time.
meet with you? I mean, I don't mean to.
Yeah,
I know
you
we all
can do
want to
it.
meet, but I just.
I would talk to Kathleen about it. She's really clean on the process, and people are treated fairly. They get put on a list of, if you're not if you're on a waiting list, it's all done based on first come, first serve, or not. Yeah. And TK is an issue for us only because it's a funding we do that is by choice, not mandated.
So, I'll let you deal with that.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah. You want me to motion to adjourn?
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, I'll make that motion, all right?
Second. Second, all in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Richard, motion.